Hello and welcome back to the A.CRE Audio Series Season 5. Let's talk physical AI. Okay, so this season we've talked about AI agents. We've talked about generative AI just in general. We've talked about the Accelerator 3.0 and how we're using AI to make that learning experience better. Physical AI is interesting because its potential impact in commercial real estate is almost as big as the potential impact of AI agents. Think about it. Physical AI it's expensive. So when we say physical AI, we're really talking robotics. But what's happened, and first off, neither Michael or I are experts on either physical AI or robotics. I consider myself an expert on the practical application of AI in real estate. That generally refers to agentic AI, generative AI, the ways that AI can help the knowledge worker in commercial real estate. But when you think about robotics, physical AI, we're talking about the physical work that goes into real estate. But its impact can be equally as, or maybe even greater than the generative AI and AI agents. How are you thinking, Michael, about physical AI, either as it relates to RVAD or as it relates to the industry more broadly?
Yeah, let's define physical AI a little bit more too.
Okay, sure.
I want to talk about it, and I want to get clarity too. Even, I mean, these are. It's not a fungible term, but it is in a way when you think of the physical bodies and needs of an operation of any real estate project and what can be duplicated, right? And if you have, for example, in an RV park, right? Like what are the processes by which you can basically minimize costs and increase opportunities, and from a real estate mindset, opportunities for revenue or your customer experience. So that's one thing that we're really focused on. A lot of the challenges in these types of projects and RV parks in general is they're very remote. So, and they're seasonal. So think of something in like, the Sawtooth or like northern Idaho, right?
Yeah.
Where it's an amazingly beautiful location. How do you get people there? It's always a challenge, especially if we're going to be all over the country. So how do we implement solutions that can help us operate remote?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's hard to buy that project because a lot of people don't want to move. So when people want to sell it, there's a lot of opportunity here. And so we're using RV at Olympic as sort of a playground. I want to say you're equally as involved in like the ideation of what happens here. One of the lowest hanging fruit that I thought, and I'd mentioned it in another episode, is like our ability to create a 24-hour environment to be able to, cashierless store, right? Which isn't novel. It's novel in this space. It's being implemented, go to any airport in the country and you'll see it. But what that does, and that's my question, like, is this physical AI? I think
it's a generation of it. Yeah, no doubt.
So
yeah, absolutely qualifies. Yeah. I think when today we expect like these robots to be better because we have experienced generative AI. Yeah. And now that these things can be equipped with some reasoning capability that they didn't prior have because of large language models, they could be smarter. Like an example, I remember earlier in my career, in the earlier days of automation, the beginnings of like the trend to make self-storage more efficient. And there was this company that was offering the ability to manage self-storage without an on-site manager.
Yes.
And that was novel at the time. That was incredibly novel. And they were using a combination of some automated gates and access components and some virtual, so people sitting in a room somewhere else watching and then calling the police if they need. I mean, now we look at that and go, well, I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah.
But at the time, that was quite the novel innovation. Where previous self-storage was, there was always someone on site who's checking people in or what have you. And so as that's evolved, we're now to the point where you're saying, oh, the cashierless store isn't an innovation. I mean, 10 years ago, it absolutely would
not
have been.
In ours, but now it's common. So there are a lot of, there's no robots coming to RV parks anytime soon, and that
I don't know about anytime soon. I think they're coming.
You think so?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, so for instance, if you watched NVIDIA's annual conference or whatever they call that thing, they hosted it.
I did
the last week or two.
The robots.
Yeah, the humanoids. The humanoids. When LLMs hit the scene, all of a sudden, robots, one of the biggest limiters was they didn't have a brain, and now they do. One of the biggest limiters was in order to train one, it needed to have simulations. And NVIDIA has now developed this full world model of the Cosmos that they can simulate scenarios.
Which is fascinating.
To train it.
Amazing.
And therefore its training data, it goes beyond the actual circumstances, and they create millions of scenarios. So take a warehouse, take an RV park, and let's say that you want to have a robot that goes around and makes sure that
the sites are all clean.
Make sure all the sites are all clean. Yeah. And with technology like NVIDIA has of the Cosmos, you could then simulate all these things, and then it knows what to look for. And
maybe that is coming.
But now you're talking vertical physical AI, and that's more complex and expensive. But
we are, and you have actually alluded to a lot of these things. Now, we are not going, again, we have our flagships RV at Olympic. We're not going full automation here.
Right.
It is like what I would call our playground to be experimenting. Every park we buy, we're going to push a little bit further.
Sure.
So the first thing is the cashierless store. We're going to have this app, obviously, that we had talked about. We are going to explore like the touchless entry, where before you show up, you get a code, or it knows the dream would be it knows your car. You let it know what RV is coming in, and we can pretty much tell you where to go. When
reads the license plate and lets that license plate in.
That's actually, I mean, that's stuff that we're looking at. The other thing is integrating sort of protocols for when, each site could be metered individually. Now, we didn't do that at RV at Olympic, but having the meters with shutoffs, so when people show up, you're
turn on,
turn off remotely. So there's all these things that we're trying to do to figure out, because I'd love to get access to some of these like remote parks where you're not relying on someone who may show up. Nobody's going to make a life and live out there and raise kids, but it would be amazing to have these capabilities. And like you said, every day you go up. One of the big things that a manual person has to do when they're on site every morning, go out and check the sites twice, right? You got to go like 8 a.m, make sure people are leaving. Yeah. You go out 11, right? There's these sort of protocols that happen. Well, there's no reason camera technology and even having a camera and like and an app that just allows you to handle that stuff remote, where you had a property manager on site. Well, now, you got these remote locations and you have one property manager in a central hub that's managing all of these sort of things. So, there's all of these things that we're trying to bring to the table. And again, RV at Olympic is going to be, playground's kind of actually it's a fun word. We will say it's sort of like a playground where we explore this while we have that on-site manager to be able to kind of test these capabilities.
When you have the advantage with RV at Olympic where this is not a remote park.
No.
Right? It's within an hour or something of Seattle. It's right in Port Angeles.
Hours,
okay.
Well, still, Port Angeles, it's not a small city. It's not a big.
From the metro Seattle here now, right?
There are people that want to live in this area. It isn't easy to find a workforce, but it is a safety location in terms of what we're trying to do for the next. But you
could imagine. So you're seeing this actually come again, and not being an expert on all of the of what's coming in the space, but I know that property condition inspectors are starting to use drones and then technology with the footage to, for instance, forecast the remaining life of the roof, or you could do a similar thing with structure, with parking lot. And so you could quickly before making an offer, you could quickly get a sense, and without having a full property condition report, at least have like a preliminary sense of what you're dealing with from a condition standpoint. And so maybe you spend $100 on that pre-PCR, that is drone footage together with AI, and you get that within 24 hours. And that allows you then to put in a more credible offer up front, right? That's an example.
I mean, yeah, you go on. I mean, you can even go to the more extreme ends of like the really complicated stuff, like, you know, on the construction side. I mean, there's stuff coming down the road here. You have a friend I know that's working closely in that space with like remote factories and things like that.
Yeah.
And
no, you're absolutely right. There's a lot coming here. And the reason why we don't touch it, we don't hear about it much, is it's expensive to develop. And until like things like these Cosmos, it was challenging, and large language models and the others, it was hard to train. It was hard outside of like very like linear things.
The amazing thing that I did see that thing for NVIDIA with the Cosmo app is that the big revolution there is that they mentioned Tesla in their driverless cars. There's two things. They mentioned Tesla in the driverless cars. Now Tesla is kind of far and away ahead of like the primary data for all the driverless cars, all the imagery, everything they've taken. But with Cosmo, you can generate all of that stuff that they've done in real time in the simulated world. And it has like, you know, billions of it. And it's way, you know, I'm way far out over my skis when I talk about it, but like the capabilities. And one of the things they said, which I found fascinating, and what's his name? Jensen Huang, I think he's like, before when you had robotics, it needed to be a green field, meaning like things needed to be just flat. Like you couldn't introduce any variables.
That's right.
But now, my understanding was because of the capability of this Cosmo, you know, this whole new world of what I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's like it's not even virtual reality.
A real world model.
You can have robots interact on what he dubbed the term. We know brownfields in real estate is something different, but he called them brownfields, where like they can operate. You know, they don't need wheels, they don't need tracks. They can walk, and they can operate in terrain that's less predictable, right, or less standardized. And that, to me, I mean, you know, the implications there. Probably RV parks are way down the road for like when the use cases come and when a robot's going to show up. It's an RV park, but like you can see like, I mean, it's coming. So just like watching that, right? And I'd encourage anybody to watch that, because that, you know, again, like Spencer's seen this, and you know, you've been seeing it forever, but for you to kind of share with me all this stuff and kind of, Jesus, this is really coming. So
well, and so if I'm in real estate. If I'm a real estate investor, how I think about it, or how I look at this, is the more complex my operation, the more opportunity there is. And so if I'm working in hospitality, which high OpEx relative to revenue, you have a greater opportunity to lower OpEx thanks to this.
That's right.
Right. If I'm running a very simple single tenant net lease asset, less so from like a physical AI standpoint, although there's absolutely applications across all. But if you're listening to this and it's like you're running full service hotels, and I'm sure all the big hotel operators are thinking about that, and it's exciting. And there's the whole other scary side of this. This isn't the venue to talk about what humanoids mean for broader society, broader humankind. But in that keynote where he had the robots lift up out of the ground, that was a little spooky.
It was.
And you read these articles about how all of us are going to have our own humanoid robot in our house in the next 10 years. I don't know if that's real or not in the next 10 years, but it's coming. Now that they have a brain, now that they have the ability to train on synthetic data, and there are some, you know, well-funded organizations that are working on this. The day is coming where we'll all have our own in-house butler, humanoid assistant that will fold our laundry, and in the same way that we all have washers and dryers now, and 100 years ago or 150 years ago, that would have been like this massive luxury.
No, they're all,
that's physical AI.
Well, if you pay attention to the space, you see that they're focused on it. Let's just hope we don't have the day where
they take over the world.
No, where's Arnold, when Arnold Schwarzenegger comes back and
Terminator?
But like, what's his name? I forget the Terminator's name.
I don't know.
Anyway,
but let's wrap it up there.
Yeah, sounds good.
Physical AI, we just didn't want to have a season where we're talking in depth on AI without talking physical AI. It's absolutely an impact to real estate. With that, let's move to our next episode.
All right.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Adventures in CRE Audio Series. For show notes and additional resources, head over to www.adventuresincre.com/audio series.